We are here. Hello, everyone. Welcome to week 2 of Codes of Transformation. Go ahead and let me know in the chat if you can see me, you can hear me okay. I am excited to begin. Yes, hello. All right. I would love to see. We got people tuning in more and more. Exactly. Okay, so week 1, if you caught the replay or you were here live, amazing. If you didn't and you're joining here for the first time, don't worry. This training can be used by itself and utilized with all the other trainings as well. What I'm excited to dive into today is the emotional aspect. So last week we talked about, what it means to really dive into your own inner motivation. We talked about the human psychology behind motivation, self-sabotaging behavior, and you got to ask yourself, what really lights you up? Coming from the core essence of motivation, it is having the energy to pursue the endeavor that you're trying to pursue. So what does it take to rile up that energy? It's to be excited about it. Find what lights you up, not what your parents want you to do or what society wants you to do or what, the environment around you is pressuring you into doing, but it's making the alignment within your own accountability, within your own self. So I hope that helped. And then today we're going to go into breaking the mental spiral. Tools to reset your mind in moments that matter. When I think about a mental spiral, if you're like, well, what's a mental spiral? For me, that means moments of deep emotional lows, depression, anxiety, maybe panic attacks, moments of social anxiety, overthinking. Rumination is a huge example of a mental spiral. In fact, my favorite definition of rumination is the pathological obsession with one's pain. Because our brain wants to focus on something. And in the art of NLP, neuro-linguistic programming, in the art of neuroplasticity training, it's about navigating your brain to a path that will be most supportive of you. So I hope today helps you feel that emotional management. It's not about controlling the emotions, which I think is really important because I would not want to be like, you're going to control your emotions. Emotions are energy and motion. They're a part of our daily life. It's about navigating them and utilizing them. So first and foremost, the pre-frame of this entire conversation is you get to give yourself space to validate your emotion. Oh, what a relief. They don't have to shove things down. What a relief that you don't have to feel shameful or guilty for having the emotional experiences that you do. And I feel like that's a very important part about self-development because there's a moment when you start to engage positivity, right? But if you do that too much, you'll end up in the land of toxic positivity where the house is on fire behind you and you're like, everything's fine. So how do we navigate the territory of actual emotions and energy and motions that come and go? Techniques like we're going to learn today. So I'm going to do a little spiel about emotions, and then I'm going to actually take you through 2 demos of NLP techniques. And I think you'll have fun and you'll see the magic that is what I'm talking about within the world of neuro-linguistic programming. The core premise of today is that emotions are signals and they're energy that could be understood and redirected if needed, right? They're not things that you need to eliminate. And I will say that again and again. We're not trying to get rid of anything. And in neuro-linguistic programming, it's not about getting rid of things. It's about allowing choice and allowing for another opportunity, a different choice. Because meeting yourself where you're at and meeting yourself in the emotional space that you're in is beautiful. And I think it's one of the most present processes that we can give ourselves so that we can feel all the feelings of being human. And the goal is to use those emotions as your guidance system that can lead you to a better quality of life. That's the goal with this whole Codes of Transformation webinar before, 2026 happens. Actually, we have 2 sessions in 2025, and then the next 2 weeks are in 2026. So let's dive into the emotions today so you can start off 2026 feeling regulated and supporting yourself, your nervous system, your mind, your feelings, all of that. Emotions are energy in motion. Emotions are physiological processes that you experience. They're energy moving through the nervous system. Tell me what emotion you're feeling right now. And just to do a little check-in on the chat for the people that are here, tell me an emotion that you're feeling right now. And what's the word that you're choosing to use for that emotion? And isn't it fun that you can feel a feeling and then bring that feeling to a certain word, and then that is the word that you label as the emotion that you're experiencing? Giddy. What a good word. I love that word. Giddy. That's my emotion with giddy. It's like, that's what I think of. Relaxed. Good. Relaxed. Satisfied, content, calm. Yes. Great. Peaceful, beautiful. And then thinking about, okay, now that you've labeled this emotion, where is the physiological container of that? Where do you feel that emotion in your body? And this is the subtle attunement that we can bring into our daily life. The thing about emotions is when emotions are suppressed, they tend to build up and intensify later. And raise your hand if you're good at pushing down emotions and then exploding later. But then sometimes if we over-identify with emotions, that's when we spiral. So the goal is to receive the emotions, interpret the emotions, and then direct or redirect if you need to. Feeling an emotion is not the same as being ruled by an emotion. Emotions, they're meant to move. They're meant to come and go and be an allowance of your experience. Mental spirals happen when that energy gets stuck. That rumination happens. You just can't let go. You know what that's like? So the nervous system, it doesn't track, in my perception, right? The nervous system doesn't track time the way that logic does. The feelings you feel don't track time the same way that your mind does. And I might hit a nerve here. This might be a hot take. There's a book out there that that some people refer back to in regards of being triggered and feeling emotions, right? They say that the body keeps score. The body keeps score. The body keeps score. That's why 13 years ago, you went through an experience and you're still living that emotion today. Hear me out. It's a hot take because I don't like it. I don't like relying upon this idea that the body keeps score. Why? Because the thing is, if you believe that the body keeps score, you'll keep score. Your mind will keep score. Your mind will keep score. And you'll not only enable that negative experience and traumatic reliving thing come back again and again, but you'll encourage it too. So sure, the body keeps score, but at a certain point, you got to stop keeping score, especially if it's a negative experience that's affecting you day in and day out. This is why people keep a traumatic experience going for decades. But then why do some people just let it go and dwindle into the past? Well, because they stopped keeping score. And in the belief system or in the content of neurolinguistic programming, emotions come from the past. They also come from future. They also come from the moment. It all depends on the words and the linguistics that you're attaching to the experience. Because if you allow your mind to keep score, your body will react as if it's happening now. It's not the story that matters, it's the structure of the nervous system. And this is the huge point with neurolinguistic programming. This is how people go into an NLP session and come out completely different, because we know that, sure, the story matters, but what matters more is the way that your nervous system is holding the experience now. Not then, not in the future, now. So the container of the structure will allow your nervous system to navigate to whatever degree you're using words to describe it. What a relief that you can let go of some things that are meant to be let go of. What a relief that you don't have to keep score, that you don't need to necessarily believe that the body is still holding on to something that happened 20 years ago. Unless you're utilizing it and it's working for you, maybe you could let it go. And what I mean by that is I think in certain places and spaces, it can be helpful to have a victim experience. I don't like victim mentality that keeps going for decades, but if something happened to you, yeah, recognize that something happened to you. You know, I know we want to be like, no, it didn't happen to me, it happened for me. But sometimes that sucks. It fucking sucks to have a positive mindset all the time, and allow yourself to feel the experience, allow yourself to be a victim of circumstance, but don't keep the structure there for too long. I think it's one of the most useful techniques of mindset development to now say, it's not what happened to me, it's what happens through me. And if I allow an experience to continue happening negatively through me, then that's going to affect your entire life. So if something happens to you, how are you shifting it to move through you in a way that benefits you? And if there's no neurological difference, according to the makers of NLP, there's no difference between what is real and what is vividly imagined. This is how you can either keep yourself more traumatized or you can let yourself be free. So which one do you want to be? Do you want to keep regurgitating negative experiences and trauma and live forward in that way? Or do you want to allow yourself to let go, create new structure in your nervous system, a new way of seeing your life and then experiencing it? Because your brain will respond to representation of reality. That's why we call it an internal representation, your internal representation of the experience. And if the brain responds to representation, not reality, that means you have some management, you have some control within that. You have the ability to reframe, renew, and rebuild in any single moment. Oh, I love it. But mental spirals can feel really powerful. Mental spirals happen, when you catch yourself in that low, or you just kind of feel out of alignment in your mind. You just know you're not being you. Mental spirals happen because the nervous system has taken the lead. The programming that has been there is now leading. That's why I said it's not about controlling your emotions. It's about learning how to work with them to see if you need to reframe them, if there's a better thing that you can experience in relation to something that happened to you. A mental spiral is a self-reinforcing loop between imagery, internal words, internal dialogue, and your state, your physiology. What I mean by that, and here's where the magic comes, because NLP is not just about the linguistics. It's also about the images that you see in your head. One of the greatest fears that I like working with people, when they have a fear of like worst case scenario, a paranoia, if you will. Well, what if you kind of switch that over to pronoia? Pronoia is the idea that the universe is conspiring for you, that it's working for you. Oh, and that's just a different structure than the paranoia. So within that self-reinforcing loop of a mental spiral, once the loop starts, each element can intensify the next one. So it goes from the thought feeding the feeling feeding the thought, to feed the feeling again, to feel the thought. So you keep looping it, and then your body's going to act dependent upon whatever those thoughts and feelings are. Spirals can feel uncontrollable because they are state dependent, not logic dependent. So you're not working with the analysis of the words of the brain. You're working with the emotional state that you're experiencing. And the brain is searching for some kind of coherence or clarity to understand how to make sense of the situation, to respond. So the nervous system is going to organize the perception to match the emotional state that is already activated. This is why sometimes you don't catch yourself until you're in those deep lows and you're like, what am I doing here? It's because you were just in that loop. And then you finally had a moment of shift, a moment of emotional shift. And then once you have that beacon of awareness happens, and you're like, oh, I got to climb myself out of this. So we want to work on how the experience is constructed, not just what is experienced. It's what you are making of that, right? You don't see the world the way that it is. You see the world the way that you are. So the sequence of the spiral is what matters, not just the thoughts, not just the feelings. And when that sequence of your mental loop becomes visible, it becomes interruptible. And this is where the NLP techniques come into play. Because within that gap that we talked about last week, within the stimulus and the reaction, you have a gap. And in that gap, you have room to respond. So there's choice there. And when you can intervene at the level of representation, meaning when you can intervene the loop by changing the images in your brain, by changing the sounds of your mind or your words, or changing the linguistics, then you gain momentum and you get out of it quicker. And you don't find yourself in these major depressive episodes, and you don't find yourself all the way on the ground in a ball because you're in a panic attack. You catch it. You check yourself before you wreck yourself, as the wise philosopher once said. Spirals persist because the brain has learned pathways, dare I say, efficient pathways, because you've regurgitated that same pathway. It's going to increase the pavement, the paved trail. Think about if you're on a mountain. If you walk a trail a certain amount of times, you'll start to see a trail. Same way with the mind. If you walk a trail a certain amount of times, your brain will be like, that's the trail. That's the way I go. So we want to create regulation faster with things like NLP because we want to create a new default. We want to create a better trail, not one that's full of animals and lions and tigers and bears. So NLP works because it gives the nervous system a clear alternative. It gives it another choice, not a command to calm down, but here's another thing you can do instead. And I'll show you even more what that means when I start to demo the two techniques. A mental spiral will end when the system regains choice. And if you remember that NLP also stands for never-ending, limitless possibilities, that means in every single moment, you can have more choice, if you remember. So choice returns when attention, meaning, and emotional state are no longer locked together in one old pattern. But you're now seeing the separation. You're now seeing, okay, I have the attention. I'm noticing what's happening within me. I'm noticing that my old programming has created a certain meaning, but I'm making a decision in this moment that that's not the programming I want. I want this other programming instead. So with things like NLP, personal development, all of this, you're training awareness before inevitability steps in, before those old unconscious patterns come in. So we call that neuroplasticity, pattern reinforcement. Okay. If you have any questions so far, let me know. I feel like I'm good at going at a good pace. Sweet. Because think about it, yeah, gosh. I used to have a lot of panic attacks when I was younger. I remember having at least 5 that were like an episode, And then I had another one in 2020 when I was driving to the hospital to go visit my grandma. And I had to pull over. And I'm so glad that I had techniques of NLP back then, because you catch it before you pass out. And so that's like a big embellished sense. But then think about those little micro anxieties that you might be experiencing, or micro depressions that you might be experiencing, or big depressions, whatever it is. You want to ask yourself, well, where's the loop starting, and how do I interrupt that loop before it gets too bad, before I go weeks without taking care of myself again? So the spiral is the loop of thoughts affecting my emotional state. What are examples of that? Okay, so let's say easy example is you go on a date and you get stood up, right? And the person doesn't show up. Maybe if you come from insecure thoughts, you'll start to spiral right then. You start to get anxiety, and then you'll start going down this huge pattern of, I'm not worthy of being loved, and everyone's going to ghost me. And, this is just like the other experience I had when my parents dropped me off at school and forgot to pick me up for 3 hours. I'm just not special, and I'm unforgettable. All of those conditionings that we have in the past that have justified bad experiences. So yeah, that's what I mean. It's a loop of thoughts affecting the emotional state. And it's the validations that you give yourself to enable the negative thought. Whereas someone with a secure attachment, someone with confidence, if they get stood up, they're just like, oh, okay, next one, I'm going to enjoy this meal by myself, and then I'll get out there in the world. So it's catching, yeah, Jana, exactly. Flooding is a good word. It's like one thing happens, and then all of a sudden this huge flood of thoughts happen that may have been from previous experiences, and then old thoughts, old patterns. But in order to break those spirals, there needs to be that moment of redecision. And if you redecide now and then set your nervous system up for readiness, then if something happens, you say, this is one of those opportunities that I learned in NLP, codes of transformation, that I can now interrupt this negative thing that's happening, because you're aware. You're aware of how you're thinking. You're aware of the structure of your nervous system, and you're making the better decision for you. Yeah, flooding is such a good word. I like that word, because that's what it feels like. All of a sudden it's like, you have a file cabinet of all the reasons that you're not worthy or lovable, and you just like go through it really quickly. And then you're sad for weeks. So the neuroplasticity part and the new pattern reinforcement happens right there. Repeated emotional experiences and repeated emotional responses will strengthen neural pathways. There's something, it's called the myelin sheath. And I like that word because it's this substance that thickens, literally that thickens around frequently used circuits. So you are creating a trail that your brain is going to take, because you're saying, this is the trail I want to take. And when a spiral becomes something that is rehearsed, it activates faster. It's harder to interrupt. And it's not about being a pathology. It's about being a efficiency. Just a bad one. But that means that you can also, since it's not a pathology, it doesn't mean you're screwed up forever. It means that you can create a more efficient way of being. So the idea is the brain is never working against you. It's always working exactly as it's designed and how you're training it. So you do need to train yourself, especially if you come from places that didn't train you about these techniques. This is why it's called the codes of transformation. If you didn't learn these codes, you might not necessarily have them unless you had people that were practicing these kind of things. So if a spiral is a learned sequence, and if there's an external trigger that then brings in an internal image, that then brings in an internal dialogue, that then sets an emotion, and then you output a behavior, The NLP intervention happens before the emotion takes over. And the earlier that you interrupt, the easier it is to reset. So changing the sequence of those spirals. I mean, any kind of trigger of insecurity could be a spiral. A lot of that stuff gets triggered in our, close relationships. But then I work with clients in regards to business building, and they're dealing a lot with it a lot when it comes to like social media and putting themselves out there in the world. And even, making a little 1-minute video is a huge deal for a lot of people, because then they're not going to be seen. And if they're seen, then people are going to know that their hair is parted weird because their grandma told them when they were 5 years old that their hair is parted weird. And that's obviously going to affect the way that people think about them, right? Silly. But we get these things, and we get these things in our mind. So what I'm a huge proponent of, or a huge presenter of, is the idea of creating more empowerment. And that's what I want. I used to be a very unhappy girl. I was not happy with the way I looked. I hated myself. I have notebooks of really mean words because that's just what I thought was the way. And then I was sick and tired of feeling sick and tired. And I said, okay, well, if I'm sick and tired of feeling sick and tired, what do I do about this? But it's the I, right? The I. Now I see that I am sick and tired. And once you see that, you can never go back to unseeing it. It's a beautiful point, because now you're giving yourself the grace and the space to rebuild and to adjust. Yay. Okay, I want to go into this idea. I'm going to go through the 2 techniques that I was talking about, because, okay, now I want to help you understand what this thing called NLP is. We're going to do one. I'll do swish pattern first. So if you've taken NLP, because I know I've got some graduates in the room, we're going to go over swish pattern, and you'll see me do a live swish pattern to a group where you don't necessarily need to hear people talk back to you. So swish pattern is this core intervention where you're going to go into your nervous system and see the representation that is within it. And then you can adjust. So this works with imagery. It works with identity. It works with the direction of attention. And Tony Robbins, my boss, he says, where attention goes, energy flows. It is that simple. This is what I like about retraining the unconscious mind. Once you get in there and you see how weird it is and messy it is, you just organize it differently. And, you don't need to go take 17 ayahuasca ceremonies to change. You can just be with yourself, be present. That's why I like NLP. NLP is sober work, and it is completely transformational. And you're not doing it with although I do believe, that the assistance of some things can help sometime. I also see a pattern of conditioning that some people have, that they need external stuff to change. Oh, I need to go I need to go do this plant medicine again because I need to have another big awakening. Well, what would it be like to learn yourself in sobriety, just your mind, and make the awakenings happen there in that special container? So that's why I like it. So let's go through it. Go ahead and take a deep breath. Maybe another deep breath. Nice inhale. Full exhale. And when I go over the swish pattern, I want you to think of, well, instead of doing this thing, I want to do this thing instead. So I want you to think of a behavior that you do that's not necessarily a behavior that you want to do anymore. I have a good example. I was working with a client in Los Angeles, and theirs was, well, I get road rage when I'm in traffic. Road rage. Like they literally, their nervous system is on fire. They're mad. They're angry. Well, how do you want to be instead? Or another client I was working with one time, when they go into a big building, they have fear. It was some version of social anxiety. So I want you to think of a behavior that you do, a moment in time where you're like, this isn't helping me. Maybe it's at night and you're reaching for another glass of wine, or you're reaching for an unhealthy food, whatever it is, think of a behavior that you don't want to be doing anymore. Great. And when you think of that, do you have a picture? Close your eyes and see that picture of you doing I'm going to call it bad behavior just for simplicity. Great. Now open your eyes, close your eyes a couple times, blank that out, and then ask yourself, well, how do I want to be instead? So instead of having road rage when I'm in traffic, I want to be calm and just neutral, let things go. Just accept the moment, right? Or instead of having social anxiety when I walk into a room, and it doesn't need to be the complete opposite. It's not like when you have social anxiety and all of a sudden you're the most confident person in the room. Sometimes you don't need to take a huge jump, but it's just a couple steps in the direction that you want to go. So instead of feeling social anxiety, maybe I can feel neutral. Yeah. And just, okay. Yeah, just okay. Maybe that's where you want to go. So ask yourself, what is that old behavior and what do you want to do instead? And when you think about the new behavior, the new desired behavior, do you have a picture? And close your eyes and then see the new desired behavior. It's beautiful, isn't it? And here, I will hit this right now. And if it doesn't concern you, don't worry about it. If you're someone with aphantasia and you don't see pictures, you're going to have more of a feeling experience. So it's going to be more of a bad feeling to a new desired feeling. It's dependent upon your nervous system, dependent upon the beautiful uniqueness of who you are. So just know that you're going from one to the other, whether it's more of a visual experience or if it's more of a feeling. Both work. So just work with it. All right, now we'll do, and these are the beginnings of adding new circuits to increase the myelin sheath that thickens around the new circuits. If you start doing it now, it'll be there by the time you're challenged with that old behavior. Cool. So close your eyes and bring up that old picture of you doing the bad behavior and just notice it without judgment, no shame. And then see the picture of the bad behavior, the old behavior. And then in the lower left-hand corner, I want you to see the new picture. And on the count of 3, not until I say so, but you are going to allow the new picture to become so big that it covers the old picture. Ready? 1, 2, 3, swish. Allow the new picture to become all you see in your mind's eye. See the new behavior that you want to experience. Feel the new feeling that you want to experience. And then open your eyes. And close your eyes. And again, bring up that old picture. Try and see that old picture again, that feeling that you don't really want to feel anymore, that old experience that you know is not really you, it's just an old conditioning. And then see the new picture in the lower left-hand corner. As you see that new picture, you're going to allow it to grow big. And 1, 2, 3, swish. Allow that new picture to now take over your mind's eye. You're now seeing the new behavior you want to do, and you're feeling the new feeling you want to experience. We'll do that a couple more times to lock it in. So open your eyes, close your eyes, bring up the old picture, the new picture in the lower left-hand corner. 1, 2, 3, swish. Allow the new picture to be so big. It's panoramic. It's all you see. Feel the experience of that new behavior. Open your eyes. Close your eyes again. Old picture brings up, new picture, lower left-hand corner. 1, 2, 3, swish. Allow it to become so big. It's all you see, all you experience. Every fiber of your nervous system now understands this new behavior. And one more time, open your eyes, close your eyes. Old picture, newer picture in the lower left-hand corner. 1, 2, 3, swish. Allow it to go all around you, experiencing what you want, the desired outcome, who you want to be, and how you want to feel. And notice what that's like. Notice what this new behavior feels like in your nervous system. And just like a master lock, go ahead and lock it in. And take a nice inhale. Nice big exhale. Then blink your eyes a couple times. And welcome back. And the magic happens not just now, but as you think to a time in the future. Think about a time in the future when that old behavior would have held you back. And notice what happens now instead with the new behavior. How are things going to be different? Who are you going to be if you follow this new behavior? Yeah, exactly. So setting up the nervous system, and you can come back to the room if you're still off in La La Land, NLP land, come back to right here. This is the moment that you've locked it in. You've told yourself, this is how I want to be instead. Now it's up to you to follow through. But see, in the old way of being, there maybe used to be no choice. I see traffic, I get road rage. But what we're now presupposing with NLP is that there is choice in that moment. And so if road rage was the example, the next time that person goes into traffic, they literally remember, no, I did this NLP technique where I'm feeling this way instead. I'm feeling calm and content. Okay, I'm feeling calm and content, and I know what that's like, don't you? Here. And then you do that 1, 2, 3 times, you're pretty much good to go. And it's the decision to have the new choice, to release the old programming. And then once you do it, that becomes the new trail that your brain will pursue. And then all of a sudden, it's months later, you go into traffic and you realize that you don't even have road rage at all. You automatically go into the ease and the contentment. Oh, so fun. What a relief. You just switch things like that. If you allow your nervous system to declare the new choice, it's going to go there. But if you, because of the structure you've set up, don't allow those new experiences, then it doesn't. So swish is an opportunity to allow those new experiences into your nervous system so that it becomes the choice that happens within the gap of stimulus and reaction. Fun? Good stuff? Cool. And that's just one of the million techniques of NLP. That one's one of the more popular ones. You'll see Tony Robbins do it. He does a visual like smash in a way. So he does this like clap with his hands instead of swish. There's just different alternatives, right? And it's all leading to the same idea that you're choosing something else. And change happens faster when the unconscious is shown, not just told. So instead of telling you, make a new decision, we showed the nervous system a new experience through that visualization. Yay. Okay. The next one we're going to lock into is another emotional state elicitation. This one is called champion state, if you know the NLP manual. So the emotional state that you're in determines the access you have to resources in the moment. And sometimes it's harder to access calm, confidence, clarity from a dysregulated state. So anchoring allows you to have intentional state recall so that you start to create more emotional self-leadership. So you're not a victim to your emotions. You feel your emotions, you accept them, you receive them, you love them, and you also say, hey, I want to feel this way as well. So it's not bypassing, here. Instead of thinking it as bypassing emotion, it's accepting emotion and then redirecting energy to bring yourself to a more supportive environment. Okay, so I want you to think of 3 emotions that are somewhat similar, like calm, clear, confident. You can have tranquil, peaceful, calm, neutral, whatever it is. You can be loving, supportive, enthusiastic. You can be powerful and confident and strong, whatever it is. I want you to pick 3 emotions and maybe write them in the chat if you want to share, if people need some ideas. And then think of those 3 emotions, maybe write them down on a piece of paper if you need to, because when I go through the visualization, you want to remember what these 3 emotions are. So we have 3 emotions. And then you're going to have a kinesthetic movement to lock in the nervous system that this equals that. So the classic one in NLP is like if you tug the ear. I'll feel the three emotions when I tug the ear. And some other ways, like I have one when I talk to my mom on the phone that I go like this because I need to be aligned. I can't be triggered, so I need to be aligned. So it's like this aligned motion. You know, I see a lot of people do some kind of like hand emotion that works for them. You can go, woo, whatever it is. I want you to pick three emotions and you're going to have one kinesthetic movement. So all three emotions are going to get tied to one kinesthetic movement. So you're going to like triple charge a kinesthetic movement, if that makes sense. Cool. You have those three emotions. And now think of the physical movement that you want to do. It can be anything. It's, you know, you can double tap your chest twice. You can tap your head, whatever it is. Cool. Okay, let's go into that first emotion. So go ahead and take a deep breath. Maybe another one. And I want you to think of a time, a specific time when you felt that first emotion. So go into the memory bank and find a specific time that you felt that first emotion. Go back to that time, back to that specific time. See what you saw, hear what you heard, and really feel the feelings of that first emotion. Feel the feelings in your body, relive that experience of that first emotion. And when you're feeling that sensation in your body, I want you to fire your anchor. I want you to do that kinesthetic movement, whatever it is. Now I want you to neurologically attach that emotion to the kinesthetic movement. Good. And then stop the movement. Open your eyes and close your eyes. And now go to a specific time that you felt that second emotion. A specific time that you felt that second emotion. See what you saw, hear what you heard, and really feel the feelings of that second emotion. Be there. And when you're feeling the feelings of that second emotion, I want you to fire your anchor and do that physical movement. Good. And just notice what that's like. And stop the movement. Open your eyes. Close your eyes. Now, I want you to think of a very specific time that you felt that third emotion. See what you saw, hear what you heard, feel the feelings of that third emotion. And when you're re-experiencing that emotion in your nervous system, go ahead and fire your anchor and do the physical movement. And notice what that's like. And when you're there, go ahead and stop the physical movement and then open your eyes and say, wow, Aubrie, can it be that easy? Yes, it can be that easy to help train your nervous system, to help encourage your emotional state. So when you need it, it can come into play so you don't go down these huge rabbit holes of disempowering emotions. You can catch yourself. And so now just think about what you had for breakfast. What did you have for breakfast? What did I have for breakfast? Oh, yeah. I had a bagel with eggs and cheese. Great. Okay, so that was a little bit of a break state moment. It was a random question on purpose. And now I just want you to take a step back. Take a big inhale, full exhale, and then go ahead and fire your anchor and just feel that, what that does. And feel the magic that happens when you're training and you're creating the neural connections from experience to motion. And now let's say you're out in the wild, something happens, and your anchor was to feel calm, confident, and collected. When you're out there and you're like, okay, I need to kind of re-engage this moment right now, you can fire your anchor. So I have an anchor before I go on stage, and on stage, like today I did it because this, to me, this is on stage. And it's like, it's, my hands are interlaced and then it's down here. And the moment I do that, I lock in. I could have the worst day, but I told myself when I am on stage, I want to be a certain way and I want to experience an emotional state. So I'm able to compartmentalize all the stuff to present myself as I want to be, not just allowing my nervous system to flail around. Cool. So that is called champion state. Yes, great words, Kathy. Unstoppable, confident, powerful. I love this technique. I love this technique. I utilize it all the time. I think it can be really empowering for people that have forgot to remember how much management they have over their emotions. So use these champion states, charge them, meaning if you're feeling that emotion, do the physical movement so you can charge the champion state and it'll really come into play. Now, is it woo-woo magic? I think it's a little bit of both. I think NLP this is why I like it because it's very grounded. It's very easy to, talk someone through emotional management, but there's a magic part of it because it allows you to tap into different energetic frequencies that you maybe didn't have access to in moments before. It allows you to now see that there's this, like, I don't want to, not the word control, but it's like you're tapping into something that is available to you. And you're saying, oh, I need this right now. I need to create even more empowerment within my nervous system. I need to make an even better decision for myself. Well, what could that be? And these were all the little techniques of NLP can come into play. So today was more the neurological sequences, right? How the structure of the nervous system is set up. So when old patterns are activated, you can make that moment of choice and say, is this who I want to be? Or is this who the old me was representing or was showing up as? And NLP tools work in the moment, in each and every moment. And so I hope these could be 2 techniques that you utilize in your own way and keep doing, right? Keep envisioning yourself in the better behaviors for you and keep eliciting stronger emotions that'll help you. This is what helps self-development become even more effective. So NLP isn't just insight into your brain. It's now regulation plus choice. You get to regulate yourself and have, yes, nice, Jana. It's a shortcut to activate the desired state. Yes, we're all about those shortcuts. They help to get from one place to another even faster. Yay. If anyone has any questions, feel free to write them in the chat. I appreciate you being here today, breaking the mental spiral, tools to reset your mind in moments that matter. And yeah, I'll do another little, so this is just a single layer. This is just a small part of the entirety of what NLP can bring and what a practitioner training could look like. So if you're interested in finding out more about the NLP Academy, I'll go ahead and put the link in the chat and you'll also get it in an email later. So this is a 12-week online course that's going to start January 17th. We do, intimate groups. They're usually less than 15 people, sometimes 15 to 20. And we just break down multiple techniques. We go into the theory of reality, the structure of reality, and how to go through the world even more empowered within yourself. If you're ready to sign up, I'll give you that link too, just in case some of you are feeling spicy. And it is an investment. I will give you that. It is an investment. And I will let you know that we've only had good experiences and that no one has asked for a return or a refund. It is only through the learning of understanding yourself, understanding how your mind works, and then learning techniques that can help you become that person that you want to be. So the investment is $2,777. It comes with an NLP practitioner training and also continued education, continued group community calls, and you get to retake the seminar. Like I have people coming back in January from 2020 that took, one of my very first ones. This is now round number 19. Oh, and you get a webinar discount. So if you're on this webinar, the price is $2,500. If you're doing the payment plan, there's literally a big blue button on that page that says payment plan. And The code for the payment plan is webinar in all caps. Let me type that. Code is webinar, and then you'll get the discount. So it's 2,500. If things are weird and you just need to let me know, you really want to do it, you just need to do a different kind of payment plan, just let me know. Speak to me. You know, the opportunity only comes, I only do this twice a year. Twice a year I'm trying to do. I did it once last year, and I love it. I love this stuff. I'm so grateful for it. I'm so grateful for you for being here, whether or not you take practitioner training, whatever. What matters to me is that you are here and you're present and you're listening to yourself and you're listening to the old you so that you can slowly dissolve the parts of you that don't work for you anymore. And when you can reset your state, when you can change your response, and when your response changes, your whole life does too. Yay. Selena said, I use the sound and movement of my earrings for the champion exercise because my toddler likes to play with your earrings. That is such a good trigger. That was a really good example. Hey, Selena, thanks for being here too, by the way. We have the capacity to think about our thoughts, where our thoughts are our interpretation of sensations. Yes, Shayna, as always, thank you so much. All right, my friends. If you have any more questions, please reach out to me. If you want to send me an email, it's support@nlpwillonlychangeeverything.com. Of course, I had to make that the website. I'm really excited about it. I love it because it will only change everything. Thank you for being you. I'm so glad you are. And I will see you soon.